Howdy folks, this is the old mountain man talking at you from the backside of this here lake in the hills of Arkansas with some very sad news to report. My buddy, and possibly yours, Little Bear, has lost his life. He developed some two different growths on his gums. And one of them was cancerous. Now, I know too much about cancer not to know for sure whenever I see it and smell it. And believe you me, cancer does have a smell, and it is just pure rancid death. And that's what his breath smelled like. Whenever I took a look at that, I examined his gums thoroughly. One growth when he went to the veterinary doctor, but then just a few short days later, about a week or so, another growth appeared on his lower right. He had a large growth on his upper left gums, and I threw everything I had at it, people. I put iodine in his system, I put herbs, I put antibiotics, everything in its turn, given time for detox between doses. And I'm not sure if the little day or two of detox was long enough or not long enough or what. But you know how much I love that dog. 13 years, almost 14, December 31st, 2008, I held a little pup in my hands. New Year's Eve, 2008, I held that little pup in my hands for the first time, and he was almost dead. I revived him, took him into my life, and built my world around that animal. Seeing to it he had everything he wanted, needed, whatever. I spoiled that animal rotten. And now, I sat alone, because I could not stand to see my best friend suffer. Choke it back, boy. I can just hear my old dad's voice from the grave saying, "Choke it back, boy, you got work to do." The cancer was so aggressive. It was so fast growing and so ugly. It was just a matter of days before he couldn't walk. I talked him into drinking water, and I sat with him as anyone would any loved one of theirs, any human loved one of theirs. That dog meant more to me than any human on this planet. He knew all my secrets, he knew all my bullshit, and most of all, he knew I loved him. And when the time come, I put my left hand over his eyes. I quietly worked the hammer and trigger on my pistol so he would not hear it, because he knew the sound of that hammer cocking. And it intimidated him and scared him, because he's seen what that pistol could do to living flesh, to a living creature. And I just couldn't let my friend suffer in any way whatsoever, whether it be fear of that pistol or from the cancer itself. His legs were shaky and weak. He couldn't hardly even hunker down to take a crap. He had to just stand. He couldn't even hike his leg to piss. He had to stand kind of spraddle-legged to stand with his legs apart like us men do, you know, whenever we're pissing on a tree or something out in the woods. But anyway, Little Bear's gone. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this YouTube channel. I'd like to continue with it, but I'm just not sure. We're giving some serious consideration to moving from this place because everywhere I look, there's a memory of LittleBear. 13 years is a long time. Almost 14 years. It's a long time to have an animal in your life. It's a long time to have any living thing in your life. And then suddenly, they're not there anymore. I've never grieved over any death this hard before, ever. I guess I just became a little bit too human. If you knew me way back when, you'd know what I mean. I don't have much more to say, other than the fact that, you know, I could have went on YouTube and posted a GoFundMe or something. This was all afterthoughts. This was all afterthoughts, after the fact, after I put my best friend in the ground in the backyard under some cedar trees next to two other pups. I just know that in my heart of hearts, if there is a heaven for animals, as the poem says, that he's there. And that gives me a measure of peace, but still, I just gotta stay busy. Stay busy, do a lot of reading. I've been getting up, getting chores done. Everything that I set aside to do later because my canine friend needed my attention. I've not had an internet connection for about 7 weeks because unreliable people. That's all I'm going to say. And it's just not got anything to do with the company itself. It's just, you know, people that just don't seem to care. That when they once did, they don't now. Well, I suppose it is like the Bible says, in the last days, mankind's love for one another will wax cold. And what that means is, as long as you're close by, they care about you. If you're out of sight, out of mind, then you don't fucking matter. Doesn't matter if you reach out and tell them or not, they're not going to do anything. They don't care. All they're concerned about is what's around them at that moment. Like a candle, a wax candle. As long as that puddle of wax is near that flame, it's melted, it's warm, it's fluid, it's flowing. But once it runs down away from that flame, it solidifies and grows cold. That's the explanation of that Bible verse. And it's happening. Our nation's going to shit because of this Biden person. Mexico or Guadalajara or Guatemala or maybe even Canada. Somewhere outside the United States. I'm going to find some place to go. Because I'm not going to sit idly by and watch my nation fall into the fucking sewer because of some jackass that's got some agenda that's going to stuff his bank account with a whole bunch of money. And that's all Democrats. The Democratic Party today is not my grandfather's Democratic Party. Hell, I was a registered Democrat up until I was 25 years old, and then I started learning. Learning for reasons to be registered as undecided. I didn't want to make this about politics. I didn't want to make this about unreliable people and Bible verses. It's just about my dog and the loss of him. I posted on my community tab a message and a picture. He was as much a part of this channel as I was, as the trees are, as the animals that I cook, or anything else that had to do with my life. My whole life was centered in serving that creature that looked at me as if I was the most wonderful human being on earth. I only wish I was as good as my dog thought I was. That's it. Animals have the power of thought. I don't know. But he would look at me with those golden yellow, sometimes brown eyes. You know, his eyes seem to change color from brown to golden yellow, depending on his mood or whatever. But he's gone. I want to thank my friends Troy and Evan for helping me lay Little Bear to rest. We had to get the water hose out and soften up the dirt to dig, because this old Arkansas red clay is real tough to dig in. Red clay, sandstone, tree roots and all. But I just got one thing to say. If you have an animal, please pay particular attention to their dental health, their oral dental health. Just make sure they have plenty of milk bone dog biscuits or whatever dog biscuits, and get their teeth cleaned, get their gums cleaned, get their teeth cleaned professionally by a veterinarian. I don't care if it costs you $50 or $100. It's worth it. I couldn't do these things because I don't have that money. I'm not a rich man. I'm not wealthy. I'm not even well off. And no, I'm not asking you for $1. Well, I could have fixed it up with as an afterthought, and I smacked myself in the head. Why didn't I think of that earlier? You know, a GoFundMe account that would pay directly to the veterinary doctor. And not a dime would go in my pocket. But it would go directly to the veterinary doctor for my dog's care. But as I said, it was an afterthought. After the heartbreaking chore of having to squeeze that trigger and put a hole in his top of his head, and I sat there and I cried. I bawled. I wailed. A part of my heart died on the 12th of December. I gotta go.